Hi guys, today we're going to do something different. If you want to learn and explore doing different types of connected stitches, that's what today's all about. Um, had some ideas and I wanted to try them out. I've made a sampler before, and most of the time my hands were outside, which was very helpful to you, I'm sure. So this one I just kind of made it as I went along, explained it in my little diagrams, little diagram page. And let's do that. Just sit back, get some something refreshing to drink, hot coffee or tea or something cold and frosty if it's hot. Have some time. Have some scrap yarn ready for you. And I just used generally worsted weight, except this is supposed to be worsted. It's a Karen 1 pound and it's thicker. This is variegated yarn, so it's a little thinner. It's the same brand as this. It's Red Heart, but their variegated does tend to be thinner. And this is variegated worsted for 4-ply. This is 1 pound worsted 4-ply, but a different brand. And this is a regular Red Heart worsted 4-ply. Okay, come along. There's all kinds of uses for these. You can use them for blankets and shoes and trivets and rugs and purses and edgings and all kinds of stuff. This, for instance, make a great edging for a blanket. You know, the top shock part where you're always tugging on it to pull it up. Nice strong one. This one you could use too, but it's not very interesting looking. It's the regular Tunisian knit stitch. This, I have nothing to call it. I started out down here before I got on camera with a regular worsted weight, and I really liked it. But I tried it with this with a thicker yarn, and it doesn't look anything like it, does it? This looks more like honeycombs, and this looks like a kind of a soft gathered stitch. So, I don't know. I guess the yarn made the difference. It's the same hook, but a thicker, heavier yarn, and this would be good for a rug. And this is soft to be good for a scarf or a hat or a blanket. You use that big fluffy yarn and a bigger hook, make a nice baby blanket. So come and join me. Let's have some fun. Today I feel like doing some experimenting, and I wanted to get this recorded before I forget what I did. And I wanted to share it. I was messing around. I was looking at my connected stitches tutorial and wondering if I ought to reverse it to do it right-handed, and I realized a lot of the times I had my hands out of the picture and I ought to redo the whole thing. And just starting to set up to redo it, I ended up messing around with some more stitches. So I want to get those on record. This is what they call a double triple. I call it a quad. Double triple means you go through the 2 stitches 6 times, and you don't. You go through 4. So I call it a quad. But this is what in America they call a double triple. And I think in Britain they call it a triple triple. Could be. Anyway, these grow the height of a project very quickly, but they don't do very good for not sticking fingers and stuff through them. See there? Got all these big holes in them. And I wanted to grow something big, And I had just recently seen Tunisian, and I decided, why don't I try connecting them? And that's where my first sampler came from, was doing all kinds of connecting. Since that time, I have used a Tunisian type connection between doubles and triples when I'm starting the edge of a project. That way I never have that gap between your very outside edge and your first stitch. So for this double triple, which I'm henceforth going to call quad, I'm going to start it the way I would if I was just going across like I did here. And that is, I'm going to go into 3 of these little back bumps that are on the chain. So you have the side with the V, and you have the side with these little back bumps. So I want to go through 3 of these little back bumps. And pull up a loop. Oh, excuse me. And now I have a quad with my edge connected to there. Now I'm going to show you how you do a normal double triple, or what I call a quad. You wrap once, 2, 3 times. Go down into your base. Pull up a loop. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches on your hook. You go through 2 once. You go through 2 twice. You go through 2 3 times. And you go through 2 4 times. That's why I call it a quad. And you end up with this long stitch. And when I hold it like this, you can see where the light is shining on what would be the beginning of your cross stitches. That's what I'm going to use here to start this. So you can see the same ones down here. You have 3 stitches here. So I'm going to undo this. And I'm going to come into these 3 stitches. Now this is your regular, what you call a regular Tunisian stitch. Just going into these cross stitches. And then you go into your base. And then you back up 4 times. Okay. If you were doing this in a Tunisian pattern, longwise, they would tell you to go through your vertical bar, pull up a loop. Doesn't this look familiar? Pull up a loop. Oops. Pull up a loop. The only thing is we are vertical. Let me go into our bottom stitch and back up. Whoops. Only 2, only 2. They get a little anxious sometimes. Okay. There you have your regular Tunisian style stitch. See? Get these nice, you get horizontal bars, but each one you can see the top is just a little slanted down. Each individual stitch is slightly slanted, but your rows of bars are horizontal. Looks like that in Tunisian. I like it better horizontal, don't you? In the back you get this fine matte looking stitch. See there? It's not a bad looking stitch on back, is it? Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and go down to the end of these using this regular Tunisian stitch. I'll be back. What you ought to be doing is you ought to get yourself a little ball of yarn, leftover yarn, and make a sampler. Start out with, give yourself, 10 or 12 stitch patches. So do multiples of 10 or 12 stitches in a chain, and then go back and do at least a row of single or half double crochet so that you have a base to try this from. You ought to be able to see and feel the different textures you come up with. Some will say, oh, that would make a nice part of a blanket, maybe type of some type of an interlac design, maybe good for shoes or booties, maybe done with a big hook and soft material. This one would look good as a baby blanket. So you need to be able to feel and mess with and look at. And this is the first part. This is the Tunisian. Here's the back of it again. It feels very flat, tight, thick. It doesn't feel fluffy thick. It feels very compact. Very compact. By the way, I'm using a G hook and a regular worsted. Now on my other sampler, I showed you a diagram, sort of. I didn't do a very good job of it, but this is the anatomy of your stitch. You have your crossbars. Inside your crossbars, you have a chain that's inside your crossbars. And between each chain loop, you have this little back hump. So just like when you make a plain chain and you end up with that back hump, you have a back hump here too. Okay? Now, you have back humps. You have the chain, which you can use the front or the back loop of. You have the crossbar, which you can use the front or the back loop of, or both. You have the hole in back of the chain you can use. There's all kinds of components of this. This particular part here shows the front loops of the middle chain, the humps, and the crossbars themselves. Now, if you use the crossbar themselves, that's the Tunisian we just did. I'm not sitting on it. That's what this is. This is just using the crossbars. Okay? Now, if you use just these humps, you end up with kind of a lattice type pattern, because what you're doing is you're pulling the humps out this way, and that's making this part go sideways, kind of standing up, and then it makes a wider hole in between, so it looks like a lattice. So I would call this the quad lattice. We just use the humps. So here's our little humps. See how they're in back like this? When we use these, it's going to pull the whole stitch forward. So we go into a hump here, back bump, pull up a loop, to the back bump, pull up a loop, and to the back bump. And there we have 4 loops on the hook, 5 loops on the hook, and back up 4 times. Every single stitch that I'll show you has the same part. You back up 4 times, okay? Now we'll go back down here to the back bumps again. If I was a looser crocheter, I wouldn't have this problem. I've just always been tight. I think because I want to have too much control over my material. 2, 2, 2. There we go. Oh, this is going to be fun. You crocheters that crochet loosely are saying, oh my gosh, look at all the trouble she's giving herself. Yep, that's me. Trouble looking for a place to park. Okay. I have enough of a sample to show you pretty good here in a minute. There. See what I mean by a lattice? Let me put the white behind here. See how close and tight this is? And you can see it has a perfect grid shape. And see how strongly these bars stand up? That's because you're taking the back hump and you're pulling the stitch this way. Now the back doesn't look like that. I mean, you can still see the holes if you pull them, but it looks more feathery, I guess. Looks more together. And the back feels smooth and flat. In the front, you can feel all the high ridges. So if you're going to do this on something like a purse or shoes or something, you'd have a nice flat smooth backside to work with, and you'd have your front design. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go to the end of this section. I'll be back. Okay, in this last area, we use just these back bumps. Now in the next one, we're going to use just the front side of this inner chain. Sorry, I think the camera's having trouble following me. And when you do that, we're going to end up with these little horizontal this way and slanting that way. Okay, so we're going to try this. So here's our horizontal bars. Okay. Wonder why the focus is so bad on this today. What's the matter, Charlie? In a bad mood? Okay. Now here's the inner chain, and you can see each individual stitch in the inner chain. We want to go through this front loop of the inner chain. Okay? So now there's 4 of these, so we'll pick which 3 we want to use. We can go through the top 3, or we can go through the bottom 3. And each one will give us a different effect. So first we just go through the front of the inner chain loop. Okay, right there. last one is the one right above the bottom. We won't use that one this time. Whoops. Back up as normal. And again, we're going to go pull up a loop in the front, first one, the second one, the third one. Skip the base, the bottom, go into the base. There we go. You can already see that it's starting to slant down a little bit. If I can get the light right. It's okay, we'll do this a couple more times. First, second, and third, and through the base. First, second, third, and through the base. Now you can really see where it's slamming down. The individual lumps are going sideways. They're slamming down like this. It's kind of a nice look. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I'll do 2 more this way, and I'm going to switch to the other one. See? Kind of like that look. And the back slants too. The back has a slant look to it. Whether these are up or are all up and down, these will slant off to the side. Now, we just did the top 3, whoops, sorry about that. We just did the top 3 loops, front loops. Now we're going to start the second, do the second, the third, and the one just above the base. This will have a different look to it. So we go below the first crossbar, and we use the front of the inside chain loop, and the next one, and the one just above the base. There we go. Lines up nicely. So we go below the first cross into the front chain, below the second cross into the front chain, and below the third, right above the base, just like that. And it's surprising just what doing that does. You end up with these straight lines instead of the slanted ones. See there? Perfectly straight. Almost looks like a basket weave, doesn't it? And yet doing the first ones gives you this slanted look. And the second one's is straight. See? Make sure the light shines on this just right. See? And the back is also straight. It has very distinct lines to it too. You have almost like a waffle type stitch, because this looks very deep and this stands up high. It has a nice two-sided texture to it. This has the same type of two-sided texture, whereas this one is like flat and smooth on the back and high texture on the front. That's why I said you ought to be making these so you can get a hands-on feel and look of what these different patterns do. Okay, I'm going to do a last couple here. And we're going to try what the Tunisians call a I'll think of it in a minute, the goblin stitch. Now the goblin stitch comes from, I believe it's a French word, has to do with needlework, where you take and you stitch and then you stitch and you stitch. You have rows of stitches, but they're staggered from each other. And I think that's where it comes from. But the closest massacred way that the English language says it is goblin, so that's what we call it. Okay. Very interesting. Okay, now goblin stitch. The goblin stitch uses the holes behind the chain. So you'll be going in between the crossbars and behind the chain. Now for a regular goblin stitch in Tunisian, you have to alternate. So you go 1, 2, 3, and then 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5. Or in this case, I call them A, B, C, D. So it'd be A, B, C, B, C, D. But we're going to go behind, back and forth. And that way you get this dash situation working up. And it looks like, where are you? That's your goblin. So you just want to go between the top bar and your first crossbar and pull up a loop. Go between the second two. See what? I'm trying to find the camera. You want to go through the second loop, the hole behind the chain between the crossbars. And do it again for the third one, going between the verticals, between the crossbars, and behind the chain. Now I've already got 4 chains on my hook. So I'm going to go down 4 loops on my hook into the base, like that. The very next time you don't do the top, you do the next one. So we're going to skip the top, go behind the chain, go behind the chain, and next to the bottom, behind the chain, and back up your 2 loops at a time. Now we go right under the top here, and then in the second hole, and in the third hole, and in the bottom. Whoops. 2, no 3, 2. Okay. And then again, we skip the top one, go into the second one, the third one, and above the base. And we're developing the goblin. And we go in the top, second, and third, and the base. And there's the goblin stitch. In Tunisian, it looks like this. You're looking straight up and down at it. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and finish the goblin here and single crochet down the back side, and I'll be back. Okay, I finished the regular goblin stitch area. And you know, this is it's a nice, tough, firm little pattern. It's not super dense, but it's dense enough, strong enough for tugging and messing with. It wouldn't be a bad edge to use for the bottom part or the button part where you're going to actually sew buttons on for a jacket or a vest. Wouldn't be a bad part for a bad way to do a purse. You could do a single crochet, the goblin stitch, and come back with a single crochet, and that would make a nice wide, dense strap or a belt. Very nice. And if you attached it to a buckle, you'd have holes where the buckle tongue could go into. Didn't show you the back before. The back is straight. It's not as smooth because it does have your deeper indentions, but they aren't as completely impressive as this stitch was. They aren't as deep. Not bad. Okay. Went ahead and single crocheted back. I'm going to go ahead and start this like I do my edges. Oh heck, I'm just going to go this way. Pull up 3 loops and a loop and a loop. Go into my next stitch and I'm ready to start. What I'm going to do this time is I'm going to do on this piece I'm going to do 2 different types of a modified goblin. With the modified goblin, I'll just go through the same holes like I do for a goblin stitch, but I'm going to do just the top 3 and then just the bottom 3. Remember how we did with the little using just the back bumps? We use just the top 3 bumps and then just the bottom 3 bumps. Oh, Chris. Let's finish the stitch though. Okay. Top hole, second hole, third hole. Skip the bottom, go into the base. Top hole, second hole, third hole, go into the base. Because you're not using the bottom hole, you're going to be pulling these down. Second hole, third hole, into the base. I'm going to do this a couple more times. So we have about 6 altogether. You'll be able to see what it looks like this way. And again, you end up with the down slanting effect. Because you're leaving a space at the bottom before you go into the base, you tend to pull all of them down. And then, of course, when you go back in, you're going on top of them again. So, Okay, and this will be the last one, I think. Whoops, I almost went into the wrong one. Well. Okay. Let's see. You have a very tight slanted down line. And again, this feels thicker. It's about the same thick, but this feels thicker than this. Dense. Feels good. And the back has a strong slant to it. See there? Now, when you change it around and we do the second 3, not starting at the very top one, we get straight again. So we're going to skip the top and we're only going to do the last 3 holes. So that's the second hole, the third hole, the one by the base, and on the bottom. And all of a sudden, everything straightens out. I like the way these things just varying a little bit here and there, and you get different looks, feels, textures, and you can get ideas for different ways to use these. For you can use them as trivets for a table. You could use them as a layer of a hot pad for the oven. I don't think any heat's going to get through this if you did 2 layers of this. Bottoms of slippers. If you want to use the ones with the smooth backside, that'd be great for the bottom of the slipper because you'd have your texture on the outside for grip and you'd have your smoothness on the inside where your foot is. Same way with hats. The ones that have the smooth side would be ideal for hats. Okay, I think I went beyond myself. Let's see. Got talking instead of watching what I'm doing here. Oh my, yes. Look what happens when you put the slant next to the straight up and down. Oh my. It's quite that much anyway. So it does straighten out. That's going to mess my swatch up. Hold on a minute, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to fix it. Pull this back down. There we go. I'll make myself a little transition space there. Now I'm going to go ahead and redo this. I'll be back. Okay. Now you can see when you do it this way, you have totally horizontal. Totally horizontal. And they're thick too. Pretty evenly spaced between the base and the top. Not bad. Not as attractive as that slant one though. I like that. And I don't know what I'd use that for. It'll probably come in use someday. Okay. So now I'm going to switch to the knit stitch. This is what the Tunisian calls the knit stitch. Now, you see where the bar goes around here? This is the front of it. Goes behind your chain into the back. You go behind this chain and you go right down in front of the cross stitch. And in back of the front, oh people. Okay, you want to go in back of this one, but in front of the back. So you're actually going in between the front and the back of your crossbar. Going to go down into it, front and then back, okay? I'll show you what I mean. Now there's no switching back and forth on these because you only have 3 stitches you're dealing with. So you come down and back in front of this one. See? Oh, come on. Here's the back of the stitch. And here's the front of the stitch. And you're going right down in this hole in between. See here? And back of your chain. Take the second one. Go right. In fact, here's an easy way to do it. So you don't have to worry about if you did it or not. Slip horizontally in front of your hole. And then just dip it. Like that. Slip in front of your chain and just dip it behind your, in front of your loop. And then just dip it. So you go through here and you just dip it behind your chain. Go through here and just dip it behind your chain. You'll never accidentally go through the hole like you do for goblins. You'll always be in back of this, the front, and in front of the back. Okay. Now it takes 2 or 3 stitches before you see the knit look on this stitch. It has to get established. So when you first start doing it, don't think, oh gosh, I'm doing something wrong. Because you aren't. But by going in between the front and the back like this, what you're doing is you're forcing that stitch back there, that middle stitch, to turn sideways. Just like you turned your inside chain on edge when you did the back loops. By going down in here, you're forcing this to face front. And when it faces front, you end up with this lovely knit stitch. See? Knit stitch. The knit stitch is very satiny smooth on the front. Real nice surface. Real pretty surface. And the back is vertical and very textured. You see how you have your deep sections and your high ridges. So the back is just as deep and textured as the front is smooth and flat. Okay. Now I think I have enough to finish most of this section. Now I'm going to have to get me some other yarn. So I'll be back in a minute, okay? Now, you see down here on the bottom, this is the first one where I was just doing what I would probably call a barred triple, because I've done a double with a single line of connection and I call it a barred double, and a barred half double, which the barred half double just gives you a thicker top and does a change up in the texture, gives you a different look. So this is what this particular connected one, where you connect it once, I would call a barred triple. So to that one you wrap, you go in your first, I'll go in my first loop here because I'm starting up again. Whoops. Wrap, go down, wrap, go through my loop, pull up a loop, wrap, go into my base, wrap, go into my loop, pull up a loop, wrap, go into my base, wrap, through my loop, pull up a loop, wrap, and through my base. And this gives you a bar all the way across the middle. It makes it more open, like if you wanted to make it for a scarf. It still grows the height of your piece fast. And because it's connected in the middle, it won't spread out as much as your unconnected stitches. There. See? It's lighter and airier. See that? Now down here I use this yarn is thicker. But still you can tell that there's a little airier than some of the totally connected pieces. See there? This is a variegated yarn. It's slightly thinner, and you can see that it makes a more open weave. And this would be nice and loose for a light scarf or maybe a light shawl. I've got to get some other yarn. I need you. Changing yarn is no problem. You wrap, go through the middle bar, pull up a loop, wrap, go through the base, whoops. You can leave now. Thank you. You were a great help. Now you can go. Wrap, go through the crossbar and pull up a loop, wrap, go into the base. There. Now if your bottom starts getting a little looser than you want, take more control of your stitch. So when you go down in here, When you wrap and go through the base, hold on to your stitch. Don't let it pull out so much. Wrap. There. Now, as you can see, it is airier. And if you use a thinner variegated thread, it's going to be even more airy. So this is with the thicker yarn, the regular weight worsted, and this is with your variegated. It does make a difference in the texture and the feel of it. Okay, hold on. I gotta see what my baby wants. Okay. So that's how you do just the barred triple. Just put one connection in the middle. And of course it doesn't have to be the crossbar. You could just go through the back of the stitch like this. Wrap, go behind the stitch, wrap, go in the bottom. Wrap, go behind the whole stitch. There we go. Wrap, and through the bottom. You get a higher bar and a little bit thicker one. And you do it that way. See? Wrap, back up. Wrap, go right behind the stitch like that. Wrap, and through the base. Now I wonder what would happen if you did it alternately. That's kind of the mood I was in this morning. I wanted to try some alternate stuff. Go to the top and wrap, go to the bottom. Should bring it in a down slant. Wrap, go to the top, wrap, go to the base. I don't know what this looks like yet. I haven't done it. Wrap, go to the top, wrap, go to the base. Looks like it's going to be thicker, doesn't it? Okay. Oh, yeah, definitely a different look. See, here's going through the loop, going through your cross loop. Here's what it looks like going behind the whole stitch and below each time. And now look at the different look we've got. Going behind above each time. And this is normal size. This feels thicker. And it'll give it kind of a banded look, I think, if you did it alternately back and forth. What does the back look like? Back's kind of flat. You can't really tell a big difference in the back. The one where we went in the bottom looks like that. And your plain banded just looks pretty much normal in the back. So here's your barred triple in the back. Here's the barred going behind the stitch below and going behind the stitch above. And it's very flat on the back. See how flat that is? On the front you can see where it actually sticks out. Okay, that's interesting. I like experimenting. And I'm glad I'm doing this on tape because then I'll be able to remember what I did and how I did it. Whoops, what did I do? Wrap, go above, wrap, go through the bottom. Oh, there's this one stitch I found that I did once and I loved it, and I said, oh, I did it and did it and did it, and I said, I'll never forget that one because I want to do that on a scarf. Never figured out how to do it again. I was in the middle of a project. In fact, I think I was making a hat and scarf for someone for Christmas. And I stopped in the middle and experimented on that. And I liked it, but I had to undo it. And I didn't stop and make a video of it. I have no idea if I'll ever get it back again. Okay. Now this is another one of those that tends to want to slant forward. So you'll have to think about that if you're doing something long. You're going to have to alternate it some way. Okay, I'm going to go do a single crochet down the back, and I have a couple other things I want to, well, something else I want to try, and one that I tried before that I want to show you, and that's this one here. Okay, as usual, I had my terms wrong. I was talking down here and I said barred triple. We're working on double triple, or in British terms, triple triple, or in my own terms, a quad. So it'd be a barred quad, okay? Not a barred triple. Now, I wanted to try doing an alternate high-low connection. And that's what I tried on the bottom, very, very bottom before we started. And then I varied it. And I think I liked the variation pretty good, but I ran out of room. So I'm going to do it here. And what did I do? Just a minute here. Okay. I kind of think of these as little H's. I start off by connecting on top, wrapping, connecting on the bottom. I'm going totally behind the stitch, and then going into the bottom, and backing up. So I still have the three loops on the three loops that I'm putting on my hook, for including that one, but I'm varying where they're at. Okay, on the very next row I would do a wrap, going back of the stitch, a wrap, so I got my 4 loops here, and then into the base, and you end up with this very zigzag type, well, not zigzag, but different type of look for a connected stitch. Now, going into in back of the stitch, wrapping, going back of the stitch, and going into the base like this. This is where I was doing some experimenting. And then chain 1, okay, let me think here. Okay, between the tops, I wouldn't want to do that. Okay. See, I'm still working this out. It's kind of fun doing this. Okay. Start over again. Now I've done my top and bottom connection. I'm going to chain one now. Come back and do the waist, so to speak, and wrap and go in the bottom. Whoops. Okay, wrap, go at the waist, wrap, skip one on the bottom, and go into the next one. See, now we're opening it out more. And then without chaining one, just go into the top, pull up a loop. Hey, 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 hey. I didn't ask for you. You stay out of this. Go into the top, pull up a loop, wrap, go into the bottom, pull up a loop, go into the very next stitch. Then chain one, wrap, come back into the waist, the middle, wrap, skip one on the bottom, I think I like this one. I don't know what I'm going to use it for, but I like it. Now go back into the top without chaining one, wrap, go back into the bottom, go into the very next stitch, like that. Then chain one, come back, go into the waist, wrap, whoop, skip one, go into the next stitch, there. Much different kind of connected open lattice, huh? I kind of like that. Looks like bricks or something, doesn't it? Now, if you did this in Tunisian, that's the fun part about doing this. If you find something different in Tunisian, you can try it on your connected stitches. And if you invent something or try something on your connected stitches, you can go do it in Tunisian. That's pretty cool. I like that. I hope you enjoyed doing some experiments with me. Learned a little bit about getting some ideas on connected stitches. You don't have to connect them all the way. Using every line, you can use one connection, two connections, high and low, in and out, back and forth. This one I used, this one I want to show you. That's one I want to show you. I wrapped, went behind, wrapped, went in the base. Just to get started. Then I wrapped, went behind two lines, wrapped, went in the base. Then I wrapped, went behind one line, wrapped, and went in the base. Okay, I got lost there. Wrap, one line, wrap, into the base. Won't lose it this time. I held on to it with my finger. Wrap, go through two, wrap, go in the base. wrap, go behind one, wrap, go into the base. Wrap behind one, wrap into the base. Wrap, go behind two, below that one, wrap, and behind the base. Now you can do all kinds of different combinations with this and you'll get some really interesting looks. Pardon me. Wrap, one stitch, wrap into the base. Wrap, go down below here, go 2 stitches. Wrap, go into the base. See what's happening here? A very interesting look. Okay. Now this one down here, I did different and I didn't really care for it. I think I like the look of this one better. It's got a different kind of a feel to it. So you wrap, go above your last connection, wrap, and go into the base. Then you wrap, you go below the connections into the second stitch, behind the second stitch, pull up, wrap, and go into the base. I keep wanting to go through 2. There. Wrap on top, wrap, base. Wrap, below down the second one, wrap, and back into the base. Yeah, I kind of like that. Let's try a variation now. Cross loop is the stitch I'm referring to. And then back, back, 3 and 4. No, don't care for that one either. Okay. It got a couple of things out of my head that I was looking at, thinking about. Now I won't do them. I hope you enjoyed it. I think it was kind of fun, trying different stuff. Learn what some backs look like. Oh, here's that. See that stitch in front? It's got an interesting back too. If you went back and forth, it wouldn't be a bad alternative for the next row, would it? I like that. And this one has an interesting crisscross look to it. Okay, I'm adding this in, my last editing. I figured out why this looks so different from this. I did it wrong. Figure out how to do that one. Okay. So, and it comes out a lot softer too. You go behind, cross stitch, and pull up a loop. You wrap, you go behind a bottom cross stitch, and you pull up a loop. You go into the bottom, wrap, and pull through 2 and 2 and 2 and 2. Then you wrap, go in the middle, wrap, go in the bottom, 2, 2, 2, 2. Now doesn't that look closer to that one? Huh? Okay, now we have a crosses established. Go into the top one, wrap, go into this bottom one. That's the bottom little slant above the, that's the, oh, that color looks nasty on here, doesn't it? See this little piece here? It's the last slant before the bottom 2 that come up from the bottom loop. That's the one you want to pull a loop through. And go through the base. Then you wrap, go in the middle, wrap, go in the base. I'm going to do it one more time. Go through the cross and pull up a loop. Wrap, go in this slanted piece down here. Pull up a loop. Then go in the bottom and pull up a loop. And then wrap, go in the middle, wrap, go in the bottom. There we have it. Let's put it up a little bit, if I can do that. There. That's the effect I was looking for right there. And that's how I got those down there. Just had to sit down and really figure out what the heck I did. But if I look real carefully, I can see that I connected through this cross piece. I didn't go behind it. When I go behind it, I get this brick look. And there's quite a difference. Okay, just had to add that in. I got a cold wind blowing in on me this morning, in case you're wondering. Okay. Thanks for hanging out with me. It was kind of fun. Well, it was fun for me. I hope it wasn't boring for you. Anyway, try some of these things out. Don't be afraid to experiment. Try variations of these with a double crochet or a triple crochet. Try variations using 6 or 7 chains to start with, which would really be, I don't have a name for it, a quince, a sept for 7, an octo for 8. You would actually be doing Tunisian all the way up. Try some stuff out. Take some of these stitches and try a Tunisian square. Enjoy yourself. If you have some cool stitches that you use with Tunisian, try it on these. It's fun. Crochet is fun. Okay, so I don't know what your favorites were. I kind of liked this. I liked it opened up a little more. This is interesting, front and back. I liked this connected stitch where we did it on the top like that. Very good. And the goblin stitch. I like the lattice. And the plain Tunisian is just kind of classic. But it's a flat, uninteresting stitch that I would use in between other stitches. This one, looks a little the stitches look higher and rougher some way. It's got the slant on it and stuff, but I think if I was going to do this particular stitch, I'd do it in a very soft, thick fabric like a blanket or homespun for hats or blankets or something like that. This is a very straight, no-nonsense stitch. Straight and deep on the back. I like the front and the back of the lattice stitch. It's one of my favorites. I really like the back of it. And I like the front of it. So, have fun, enjoy, experiment, and God bless. Happy crocheting.